got a cracker of one to ask.
He gets the first one in every time. There we go.
Shame about Clay Smith. You were sort of moulding him into a nice type of player.
He's coming along well. Part of the game, unfortunately, and the irony is he hurt himself playing the way he does, almost refusing to let his man have the ball. And his surgeries today, and all being well, we'll get a fantastic young player back next year.
When do you expect him? How far into next season?
The surgery hasn't been done yet, so you always hope the signs are good that it'll be just a nice, neat, normal knee surgery, but you never know until you go in there. So fingers crossed that everything's all right, and then they're anything from 9 to 12 months, aren't they?
It's sort of been one of those seasons, hasn't it, where you sort of take a step forward and then 2 steps back due to injuries or something comes up.
It was a funny day. We did enough right to beat a really good club. I think they even felt that themselves, but we just couldn't find the luck we needed at certain times. There were times when we probably gave up some easy goals, and that happens to us a little bit. But yeah, it's a fair summation, and we. But each time that happens, it gives us an opportunity to look at someone else, and yeah, you'd like a good run at it with your best players every week. That's for sure. We need that.
Must give your side a lot of belief, though, that you took it down to the wire, really.
We did, apart from the last 5 minutes, but there's still those areas we've got to maximise our opportunities a little bit more, and a bit of that's we're probably still looking at different forward options, aren't we? Each week we look at something different. We'll probably go something similar this week, and the opportunity will be there again to kick the ball well inside 50, and we've got to make sure we do that.
Jared Grant had a pretty good game. You must have been pleased with how he made his return.
He did. He's been building some solid form in the VFL, and that's what we wanted him to do. And some of the things we've been working on with him came out. There's some other things that, that he knows that to progress the way he wants as a player, you've got to be pretty rounded now. You can't just be good in one area of the game. Otherwise, you don't help the team function. And we're still pretty optimistic about what he'll become.
Just talking about kicking the ball well into your forward line, did you go to your small forwards too often last week and not enough to your tall forwards? And is that
a little bit short, weren't we? Yeah.
Is that the tall forwards' fault, or is that the pressure from midfield? Or?
Combination, young people with the ball in their hand who think that they need to kick it when sometimes they've got another. We've got some good young running players that at the moment unload the ball a touch earlier than they need to, and I think there's no doubt your really mature, experienced players generally look long and then scan back. They don't look short and then take the first one. So that's what the good ball users do. You talk to any elite kick and elite decision maker, they'll nearly always give you the same answer, that they tend to look long and then look short after that. And we probably hit the first one rather than getting the one over the back a little bit on Sunday.
Is that hard to train, or is that instinctive?
Bit of combination. You can work on it. The easiest way to work on it and develop it is to keep doing it, and might be a challenge today with the wind here, but we'll probably end up going indoors a little bit and work on a few things. Each week we put them in different situations to select the right option, and then once you select the option, kick the ball to the advantage of the guy you're kicking it to. So there's some good young ball carriers and running players we're introducing into our team that we think will be pretty good at that in time.
You mentioned 2 weeks ago about getting that 50 games into those young boys, and now you've got to speed up the next 50.
Last week.
Have you got enough 50 game players, or have you got enough kids that have got 50 games in them to sort of take you into next year, or do you still have to build on that?
By the end of the year, we'll have another, and 50's I guess it's a number that you can pluck. It might be 40, might be 60. Some like young Tom are doing it at 40 games. Some take their 60 or 70. But I think the main message, Tony, is that it generally takes, unless you're an extraordinary young player, it takes sometimes your 4 to 5 years to get that foothold in the competition. And once you've got that, your apprenticeship, you can't take that long to get the next 50 games up. You need to really earn your keep and become a more pronounced person in the team, and that's where I was heading with that. But we, all being well, we'll have we've got a lot of boys next year jump into their 3rd year of AFL footy and start to put some good experiences together. And we've had some tough initiations in the last 18 months. We've been touched up by some strong clubs. We've struggled in some games where we probably should have got a better result, and that has a way of moulding people and toughening them up. And I'm seeing a group in particular our younger guys, starting to get pretty grumpy when they lose a game of footy, especially when they do a lot right and they still don't get the 4 points. And we're really confident we'll get a good result out of that.
So that sort of sound like where the Tigers are at about now, aren't they? They're sort of those younger players that they had 4 or 5 years ago, 80, 90, 100 games.
Yep.
With that in mind, does that mean that you're probably still maybe a year or two away from being a really competitive team?
Oh, well, I think the word competitive, I think being competitive for longer is the next challenge for us, and that comes with having a brand of footy that is fiercely competitive and being able to do it more often than not. And a little bit of maturation with some of our young boys. We're probably the biggest challenge we've had is we've had to throw young people in positions that are really tough to play. They draw a lot of heat, they draw a lot of scrutiny, and that might actually it'll pay us dividends in the near future.
Will you welcome anyone back this week from injury?
Bordy, no. We thought we may get him back. He'll be another week, but be a pretty similar team to what we've fielded last week, I would have thought.
Looking to next year, you talked about the forward line. How do you go about getting perhaps a big key forward? Would you look at drafting a youngster or perhaps trading for a more senior forward?
All of those things. It's still very early in the season to be talking about what we do at the end of the season. You make provisions and plans, and we're no different. There's still 3 ways to get players to your club, and we'll look at all those just like we did last year. We know we have young forwards here that are carrying a lot of responsibility, and as I said before, we'll get a dividend out of that in time. But they probably could do with a little bit of help, and they could do with some better supply. So it's not as simple as put a player in the forward line and say, right, there you go, everything's fixed. You need the right type of player, the right type of person that fits what we're doing, and you need all the people that have the ball in front of him, in front of those guys, to kick it to the right spots and kick it well.
Will you look at that number 1 pick that's on offer by trading away to get that number 1 pick and perhaps getting a Tom Boyd?
Maybe. We talk about a lot of things. It's an interesting ploy to throw the big carrot up and watch everyone go snapping after it. We just meet every 3 or 4 weeks and talk about what we want to do to shape our team and what we need, and all those things are part of the discussions we have, as probably 16 other clubs are talking about it. I would have thought it was an interesting ploy to throw it up, I thought.
Hawthorn's big man stocks, you're going to be asking a lot of guys like Vincent and Morris, aren't you, this week?
Talia is progressing quite well. Jordan Roughead is flying under the radar a little bit. He's not standing out in games, but he's getting the job done more often than not against tall forwards. Key is could be an interesting day down there, the way the Hawks play and the size of the ground, and if the weather's a little inclement, it might be a day where you just got to position yourself pretty intelligently around the ground and make sure that where there's space you get some people in there to fill it up. So
Are you tempted to pop the 2 Roughheads against each other?
they'll play on each other at some stage, I'm sure. They're related, I think, aren't they? Somewhere along the line. You'd think so. He's a fantastic player, the Hawthorn version, and we think our young boy's 22 and he's going to be a really good player too. And he's filled in really well for us this year, and whether he becomes a 10-year fullback or a 10-year ruckman centre-half forward, we'll still find out, but we've got a good young player there.
Just when you mentioned it's interesting that GWS threw up that first pick, what did you mean? What was interesting about it?
Just maybe they were so public with that, and then all of a sudden you get 12 to 15 clubs jumping over each other. Sometimes you get in those boat races, you give up more than you really want to give up.
Just on.
It's easy to throw things up when you've got all the cards, I reckon.
Just on Will Minson, we saw a little bit of, I suppose, aggro of him towards teammates on the weekend. Not aggro as such, but sort of leadership in a way as well. That's what you want from Will, but is maybe the way he displayed it a little bit over the top?
No, it was all right. I think he went the polite for him. He suggested to a young bloke he should come into the centre bounce because we only had 3 in there, and that's not a smart way to play. And then I think he got a bit more urgent, and then I think he got a dumb, vacant look back. Actually, not the word dumb. We got a vacant stare back, and that got him upset. No, I don't mind that. You look at good teams, they're getting stuck into each other all the time about how the game should look, and that's a good thing.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
Cheers.